Time is speeding up. Chaos is shifting into a new level, and we feel the pull to unlock the mysteries of the universe. Timeless spiritual wisdom offers the point of stability to navigate these times and to open our greatest potential. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the fun and knowledge of visionary best-selling authors Shri and Kira as they explore these mysteries and invite your higher love to come forward. And now, here are Shri and Kira.
Namaste and welcome to Explore the Mysteries. I am wisdom teacher Sri Ram Ka.
And I am Master Lady Kira Ra. And angels, bring a hand to your heart. Really breathe it in, because today we're diving into that mystical, magical, wonderful journey of you, your purpose here on this planet, and the pathway that you are walking. This is a big one because, today we're talking about how do you discover your path? How do you discover your purpose? And, so many people, Shri, keep talking about how they're not happy with their life and they're having challenges discovering what brings them true joy. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what would assist you to find even greater inspiration, and we're going to offer you a very sacred practice that you can really call in. It's easy to do when you catch yourself being in judgment, especially of yourself and others.
Absolutely. Boy, there's a lot of rich content
here. Oh, yeah, it's rich.
So let's just begin at the beginning. There comes a point in our lives where we're seeking a deeper level of peace, a deeper level of meaning.
Yeah.
That is, we conformed, we did a good job as best we could, whether it's raising our kids or doing well in our job and just getting along with other people. But there's a point where we go, well, there's more. There's something more. And that's when the spiritual DNA begins to come online.
Whether you know it or not. Shri and I were really talking about this show and about this subject and this now moment in our collective human evolution, experience, history, whatever adjective works for you. And one of the keys here for us was that the Galactic Encyclopedia, right? And if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, visit shriandkira.com and check out the messages, the mastery messages that we are all being flooded with. And this particular one that really offers us kind of a guideline for today's show comes from the Galactic Encyclopedia, actually right in the beginning there, lesson 2. And let's talk about that. And let's maybe set the stage on that as we continue this what is the reason we are here experience.
Yeah, because when we begin to acknowledge that we are a spiritual being, then a whole world opens up, and then the value of these angelic transmissions just touch home so deeply.
Well, we hear them, every time we read anything or experience anything or connect with anything, we receive it at the level of consciousness that we are currently meeting it with. And so in this moment, Shri and I are just going to read this little segment to you because it really is the basis of all the information we're sharing with you today, and we're going to dive deeper into this. But why don't we invite everybody, maybe bring their hands to their heart, huh?
Yes, let's take a moment and listen to this direct transmission from the Archangelic Realm. Take a breath in.
Sigh.
Dearest children, there is only one reason you are here. It has many, many, many different forms, yet there is one underlying reason. You are light and you are expanding. You are an effervescent spark of divineness. You are joyous light, dancing, celebrating, experiencing, and being.
How you choose to express that light is where each of you has your own path. All of you are on a path. The question is, what path are you on?
You may say, I don't know. What is my path? Where is my path? Oh my goodness, I am lost on the path. Took a wrong turn on the path. Know that all paths lead home.
All paths, dearest children. How you go there is completely up to you. Completely. Sometimes you must take many paths, and sometimes you have many forks in the road, do you not? Yet the forks are part of the path. Each fork will lead to another fork, and eventually they will all bring you back to where you are seeking to go. You must first release judgment that you are on the wrong path or that you have not done enough, been enough, or are good enough.
The judgment of any path interferes with your own path. We have spoken often that when you walk your path clearly while not interfering with the path of another, it is a wondrous and beautiful way to be. Yet have you ever asked if you have interfered with the path of yourself through judgment? It is important to pay attention to this. What are you judging and why? When judgment comes forward, it is an opportunity for you to become ever clearer. It is a way to recognize that in that moment you are indeed densiful.
So let's breathe that in. Let's really breathe that in. And as we dive more into this first experience of why we are here, what is the reason we are here? Let's remind you of one sentence that we just read. I mean, everything we just read is there. But let's bring this one sentence back in. You are light and you are expanding. Period. You are light and you are expanding. So what does that really mean? I am light and I am expanding, Shri. I mean, I don't even know. What does that really mean?
Well, I think the place we can start to wrap our understanding around that is the spark of the divine. That all beings are an effervescent spark of the divine energy.
Yes, and as we just mentioned, you are light and you are expanding. So let's talk about that too.
And so in that spark of divineness is the energy of light. Light is love and it is consciousness expanding. And that we expand through the density, meaning this body, this life, your light is expanding through the life of your birth. And so we have an opportunity to accept all paths and all people as on their spiritual quest of completion, on their spiritual path. And that as we are all light and are all expanding, who are we to judge another? Because they are finding their way as we are finding our way. And I really need to pause just right there. If we do not sense that we have the spark of the divine within, then talking about light, talking about expansion, talking about joy does not have an essential foundation in our soul. And this is the discernment that is so essential here. Once we begin to discover that we're more than just the personality, we're more than the body, that we begin to accept, I am light and I am expanding, then our brain can start to come around and cooperate rather than interfere with our joy and our life.
So I want to jump in here because really everything we're talking about comes down to trust.
There it is.
And it really comes down to self-trust. You know, look at this line. Even just the first thing, you are light and you are expanding. You are an effervescent spark of divineness. You are joyous light, dancing, celebrating, experiencing, and being. All of that is moot if you cannot trust the energy that is essentially flowing through you, which is essentially the energy of the self. And here's what I think is so powerful. That so many wake up and say, you know, why am I here? Why am I here? How do I discover my path? How do I discover my purpose? Well, at the end of the day, the essence is by trusting yourself enough to allow the expansion, to invite that essence of illumination to be the guiding force of this divine experience of co-creation. So I want you to bring your hand to your heart right now. Let's bring our hands to our heart, right? So let's bring our hands to our heart. And let's take in I want you to just take in a really beautiful deep breath. If it's safe to close your eyes, do so just for a second. Up through the nose, out, and remember, if you exhale with the word sa, it gives a greater release to the body. It invites the infinite presence, and you actually feel a sense of relaxation. Then the next secret to the sa, the release of the sa, is the smile. Because when we smile, we send a signal to the universe that transcends our density belief systems, that transcends all the limitations that are trying to stop you from trusting yourself. From the moment, and I know you guys know that, breathe this in, right? From the moment you are born, you are immediately taught not to trust. Yeah. You are taught that everything exists outside of you. As a newborn infant, you're very aware of the outside, because you have literally just transitioned. Remember, the birth of the baby is the death of the fetus, right? You have transitioned like the butterfly coming out of the cocoon from the inner to the outer. And so the entire experience of the unfolding of really the ascension process, consider this, that from the moment you are born, you are ascending. So breathe that one in. You are ascending through being an infant, being a child, an adolescent, a young adult, an adult, a wisdom keeper, a master. All of these ascended energies are a blessing. And the key to really putting that key in the lock and saying, hey, what is my path? What is my purpose? Is that as we are buffeted, and we do get buffeted, as we are buffeted by all of those experiences of the life of form, of this expansion, then the inner comes forward again and says, hey, remember me? Remember me? And that ignites that moment of yearning, seeking, discovering, whatever works for you. It's the energy of saying, I know there is more. I know that this is not all there is. And it's that first step that ignites that trust of the inner again. It's almost like there's this initial quote unquote discorded moment, literally where we're decorded, right? We're literally decorded when we're born. And no, seriously. And that it's about learning how to trust all over again.
Well, and we're being called to a deeper level of trust. Because,
exactly.
If we look out into nature, it seems that the animals and the birds have an instinctive trust in their wiring, in their nature.
Right.
Like
our fight or flight kind of thing.
Yeah. And they're out, they're doing their thing, whatever that is, and it is a natural expression. Human beings, on the other hand, when they start focusing on the outer world and saying my sense of approval is dependent on outer world.
Right, my sense of self.
My safety. Other people tell me who I am. They applaud certain things and they diss me on other things, so I naturally want more applause, and we get shaped.
Well, I want to bring up this line from the Ensoulment. It's the start of the second paragraph, which says, how you choose to express that light is where each of you has your own path. All of you are on a path.
Yes.
The question is, what path are you on? And Shri, this really ties into what you were just saying.
Well, and the consciousness is one of the critical factors.
No, it's like number one.
So there's two pieces here that we want to explore further. One of them is trust.
Yes.
Because as Kira shared, this is foundational.
Woo, yes.
And then, of course, there's consciousness, which brings up the whole aspect of free will and choice. Without consciousness, we are on a reactive path. It may be divine, nonetheless. It might be a beautiful expression.
Well, I think that's important to remember, that even as they say here, all of you are on a path.
Yes.
So it's the and this is going to take us, and we're going to be spending like almost the entire second half of the show on judgment and the release of judgment and what judgment does and the trap of judgment and how to get yourself out of judgment. But this is also where we have to look at that judgment right now, because judgment really does arise through lack of trust. Yeah. Because in the lack of trust, and this is what you were just sharing, Shri, let's talk about, first of all, the physical body. If you are aware of the energy of the chakras, and if you're not, chakras are energy centers that exist in the area of the spine that assist us to not only expand, but they work in very interesting ways to support the journey of our ascended presence. And do you want to add to that, Shri?
Well, yeah, because the chakras actually are your divine energy expressing into form.
Exactly.
So
it's kind of like little sacred seeds waiting, right?
The moment we start attuning our awareness and our consciousness to the chakras, the spiritual path begins to blossom.
Oh, yes.
And all of the great yogic traditions talk about the chakras, balancing the chakras, enhancing the chakras, becoming aware of the blessing of the chakras.
Oh, absolutely.
And so here's where I get kind of caught, having counseled people.
And you were a brilliant psychotherapist.
in that phase of my professional career, I was
Yeah.
helping people through addictions and discomfort and coping and family dynamics and, the whole thing. And what I learned during that phase is that the human condition is always going to feel deficient. Always. You're going to feel one step removed or one step less than.
And why is that? Let's talk about
unless you become a narcissist.
that. Okay, well, and now this is I think this is really important because look at the rise of narcissism. Yeah. And this is because of the need for safety and the lack of trust. Well, I mean, this is just such a massive moment to talk about.
Well, it is. And so from a quote-unquote normal box, meaning density.
What is normal?
Density consciousness.
There it
mass
is.
consciousness.
There it is, mass consciousness.
Has its definition of normal.
Right.
From that perspective, we can refine ourselves with various self-help techniques, therapy included, and other empowerment trainings.
And we can do that at all levels of consciousness.
Yes. But at the density consciousness, at the mass consciousness, we are still focused on the belief that we are a personality and that the ego is the governing principle of who we are.
And this is the group think. And this is a really fascinating moment because the group think energy basically says trust no one, especially yourself. All your answers lie outside of you, and your safety is often obtained through what we refer to as partners in pain. Yeah. And partners in pain limit your expansion. Pain is a gateway to greater expansion or the absolute dam that holds back the river of consciousness. I mean, and it's really fascinating because this is a contrast life experience that we have chosen. We live in a world of polarity, light, dark, up, down, north, south, east, west. It doesn't matter. We live in that experience. We chose that experience. Yeah. The key is to move through that experience, through whatever pain comes forward, through whatever obstacles may come in front of you, to rediscover without doubt the depth of your own divine co-creative empowerment. You are light and you are expanding. Period. End of story. We could synthesize this whole ensoulment down to just that. Because when you honestly can own that energy, then what you're trusting is that everything, and I mean everything in the mosaic, because it really is a mosaic, isn't it? Everything in the mosaic that is your life right now. And what's a mosaic, right? It's all those little pieces, and some of them are really good looking, and some of them are like, oh my God, that looks like a piece of garbage, but when I stick it in here, it's the perfect color or the perfect size or the perfect shape. It's that reaching outside of the accepted paradigm to remember yourself as the mosaic. That every single experience, everyone, all the ones that were so beautiful, all the ones that were magnificent and glorious, and all the ones that brought you to the depth of despair have made up who you are.
Yes.
And when we stand back is when we see the big image of a mosaic. But when we are right in front of the mosaic, all we see are the fragments, and usually we see the ones that we don't enjoy the most, and we try to repel them, right?
Yeah, well, and partially, you're talking about as we gain in life experience, we're able to be less hypnotized by the immediate and begin to see the connections, begin
wide
to
angle
see
lens,
the mosaic.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? We're able to take that camera and bring it into the wide angle.
And you're reminding me of what some of the most brilliant minds throughout history have brought forward. It's called the Perennial Philosophy.
There it is.
That there is this infinite source that underpins
everything.
all creation.
Everything.
And that from the philosophical mind of the best thinkers on the planet, which isn't quite the Archangelic mind, but it's getting closer than a lot of stuff out there,
yeah.
that they say that the purpose of your life is to know that energy. And whereas the Archangelic Realm is reminding us, you are the energy.
And that's how you know it.
You don't need to seek it. You don't need to seek. And this is where we run into the dynamic of the brain versus the heart.
Exactly. Well, and I love this in the ensoulment too, where they say, All paths, dearest children, lead home, and how you go there is completely up to you. That is like the ultimate reassurance. It's saying, look, you cannot mess this up. Only the mind of limitation would make you believe that you either don't know what your path is or that you've messed it up somehow.
Yeah.
That is really a crucible of that trust energy. And I love how they define the mosaic here as sometimes you have to take many paths and sometimes you have many forks in the road. Do you not? Those are all those pieces of the mosaic.
Well, and here is the delicious paradox. We are oneness that has differentiated into form, seeking to return back to oneness.
The ultimate irony.
And so,
It's like you want what you don't have
and so,
or don't perceive you have.
Yeah. And so in your individuation, we use the individuation to hone our consciousness to recognize the oneness that has allowed all this uniqueness to express.
Wow.
And so when the Archangelic Realm says to us, you are light and you are expanding, they're referring to everything and everyone.
Without limitation. And I love this because they even say down here, remember that all those forks are part of the path and that each fork will lead to another fork. It's like, choice to choice to choice, right? And eventually they all bring you back to where you're ready to go. And this is really important because when we give ourselves the gift of freely choosing our path, when we do not succumb to the limitation of a force field of groupthink that says, do not trust yourself, do not trust anyone else, there is only one way to be. Groupthink is what? This is how you need to think. Now, Shri and I expand that into what we refer to as the planetary thought body. So what is the planetary thought body? Because this brings us into that trusting there are no wrong choices. This is that other thing we're talking about today. And what's so important to remember here is that how often do you doubt your own choice? Or how often have you made a choice, felt really good about it, and then someone else talked you right back out of it again? Yeah. I want you to breathe that in because this is another one of my absolute favorite sharings from the Ascended Realms. And it is that when another has more passion than you have for yourself, then you have forgotten who you are. Mm-hmm. And I want you to really breathe that in. When you come into a moment of inspiration, right? Divine inspiration is the path and purpose, the ignition of the divine inspiration, where we let go of thinking we're needing to control anything, and we are in that constant law of instantaneous manifestation, right? Shri and I teach the law of instantaneous manifestation. The law of instantaneous manifestation is actually why you're here, and comes forward when we do trust that all of our choices are leading us to where we are ready to go. And this is so important, especially in times like now. Right now, people are more afraid than ever. Mm-hmm. There is new ways of living collectively. Even though we're in a moment where we still believe in all this separation, where separation certainly is still king on this planet, there is the blessing that through COVID, through the experiences we're going with right now, the whole globe is dynamically being shifted. So in that dynamic shift, in that reason, not only that we are here, let's expand that to the reason we are here right now is to actually reclaim our trust in our divine essence, to reclaim the knowing without doubt that there are no wrong choices. There may be, as they say here, forks along the way, but every fork will lead you to another fork, will lead you to another fork. And at the end of the day, it brings you to the essence of the ascended presence, which is what? Awareness. Yeah. It all begins with our awareness, our experience, and then our choice. The key is, are we doing this through our consciousness, or are we just a subroutine running in the background that we're not even aware of, right?
Well, yeah, and I think we all do a little of both.
Right?
We learn through contrast, and sometimes you don't know what is important until you've lost it.
I think we've heard that before, right? Yeah, right.
And this whole thing of who am I and what do I trust? I have had the honor of sitting on alongside a person that's dying and being at a deathbed vigil. Yeah. And I know many of you have heard the stories that people that are in their hospice situation, in their terminal situation, aren't craving more distraction. They aren't, what they're craving is essence. What they're recognizing is who they truly are outside of the shell and all of the activities that we used to define ourselves by. You know, the old cocktail party. Hi,
I do.
What's your name? What do you do? You were defining yourself by what you do.
By what you do. And then when you would no longer be doing that, really feeling lost and wondering who you are. Think about that.
So one of the gifts of kind of losing some of this stuff is it gives us an opportunity to become aware of essence.
Exactly.
And this brings us to the Perennial Philosophy. It brings us to the teaching from this Archangelic Realm. It brings us to the cultivation of consciousness.
Yes.
Through contrast and the recognition of essence rather than content.
Ooh, say that again.
True meaning and true understanding comes from recognizing essence, not the content of the essence.
So explain that. What does that mean? For those that are going, I get that, Sri, but tell me a little more.
Well, it means that our spiritual quest is one of finding the deepest level of truth, the essence of our divine nature, the energy that animates our life, and the wisdom that it represents versus the more common egoic way of understanding ourselves as I have this much money, I have this training, I have these possessions.
This is my title.
I have these preferences.
Right.
Well, all of those things are the content, meaning you can identify them and put your finger on them and say, see, I got that, I'll trade it with you, or I'll define myself by it. As opposed to saying, I am light, I am a spiritual being, having a human experience.
Now, bring your hands to your heart. Take in another, let's go in through that nose. We're going to go out with the sigh and the smile. I am a human being having, I am a divine experience, right? I just totally messed that up. So let's say it again. No, it's not okay. I want you to say it again. I was so in the breath that I lost where I was.
No, I am a spiritual being.
There it is. I am a spiritual being having a human experience.
But here's the beauty of your little
of my misstep
of your slip of the tongue. If we really look at the word human, it's H-U, who, which stands for spirit.
Yeah.
In many traditions, who is like the breath. Who. And the man. It means the spirit infused into the being.
And man is not gender specific here.
No.
It is the reference to the broader experience of humanity.
It doesn't matter. And so it's an interesting little dynamic that was going on there. That we are spiritual energy having a human experience, and we're working through the layers of disconnect. So the first layer of disconnect is believing that you are your body. No, you have a body. But you are not your body.
Well, now I got to giggle because in the Galactic Encyclopedia, if this excites you and you want to learn more about it, the Four Knowns was one of the lessons in the Galactic Encyclopedia. And I think we'll do a show on the Four Knowns because the number one of the Four Knowns is what? I am not my body. And so that also brings us back to trust.
Yep.
It also brings us back to releasing judgment. It brings us back to this whole cycle.
Well, and yeah, there's so many little nuances that we can have fun with here, and I want to bring up. And we are. Trust is revealing a deeper truth.
Yes.
Trust is a truth revealed. And one of the things that's important to recognize is, in density, we're taught trust must be earned. So what they're saying to the child, and I know a lot of us kind of see the quote wisdom and the deception of it, is that if a person is consistent, you can trust them. That's what we're taught. So if they play by the rules, if they don't hurt you, if they're consistent, I can trust them. So we learn to trust our partners in pain.
This is really important.
And our partners in pain are those people that will be sympathetic to our dysfunction.
And to keeping us stuck in the same way of being.
So if you keep getting hurt in the same way, if you keep having a victim-y experience, your favorite partner in pain is the one that you can trust to pat you on the back and say, there.
Well, more than that, Sri. I want to dive into that. It's more than the there. It's the one that will actually join you in blaming another.
Yes.
And it will join you in validating that you are right to blame, you are right to project, and let us bond through that righteous anger, through that righteous judgment. And this is such a massive, massive, massive experience. And we have so much to share about this that I want you to bring a hand to your heart, because in just a moment, we're going to come back and we are going to dive into the second half of this show by expanding upon this entire thing of trusting our divine nature as part of the reason we are here, and how the energy of judgment and releasing judgment is the greatest gift before you, and the one that will break the chains of the partners in pain, infuse the consciousness, and expand everything into the law of instantaneous manifestation. So we're going to invite you to take a moment, take a breath, and we're going to be right back.
See you in a minute.
To the Self-Ascension Classroom, affordable and beautiful home study for your mystical journey. Imagine the gift of studying everything that you've ever wanted at home and on your time. Yes, it is possible, and there is so much to choose from as you dive into your home study experience. Remember that with every moment you spend studying this gift, you ignite your divinity. Imagine the mysteries of the Tohil and the crystalline clarity and radiant abundance of Vesa, a mastery balancing technique and certification process, and then cosmic life regression. Travel the universe and remember, allow yourself the gift of navigating the inner matrix. This beautiful Ascended Mastery program of the Violet Flame will take you to places you may not have dared to dream to go, and then you will rediscover the true gift of your divine nature. Yes, the time is now to study the ancient mysteries, and it's so easy to begin. Discover the Self-Ascension Classroom only at ShriandKira.com. That's ShriandKira.com. Namaste.
And now, here are Shri and Kira.
We are so excited you are here.
Absolutely. You know, we've been talking a lot about essence and who we are as spiritual energy, as well as the challenges of learning to trust our essence as opposed to putting our trust in the outside world.
Absolutely.
And you know, and when we took our little station break, we were wrapping up this conversation about partners in pain. And one of the things...
Let's breathe that in again, because I think we should talk about... Let's just talk about partners in pain a little bit more. Yeah.
One of the things I want to just bring forward for your discernment is the recognition that when we seek out a partner in pain, someone who will say, you are right to blame them, or
you are right and they are wrong.
Right. And that right and that wrong, that sense of polarity that they're reinforcing, think about what's really going on there. They're helping you stay stuck in a position of disempowerment, that someone else has more power out there and they did you wrong.
Well, that also, and then this gets into that whole thing about the passion and about who's carrying more passion for what.
Yeah.
You know, and let me give you guys a little example. Earlier this week, I was in a conversation with some beautiful beings that had not misrepresented something, but they had basically made an error and didn't know how they were going to share that with myself and another person. And as I was on this call with them, all I could see was their agony, that they were like, okay, here's what we did. And we shouldn't have done it. And now we've got to change everything we said we're going to do. And oh my God, but this is why. So here's the key. That's the moment where, as I was listening to them, the first thing I noticed was how stressed out they were, because they knew they were going to have to share this, and they knew they were going to have to change terms of an agreement. The gift was that we were all able to meet in a higher consciousness experience. And not only was I able to see their discomfort and their concern, it gave us also the opportunity to come together and actually expand and bring it into a greater sense that not only was the resolution beyond my wildest dreams, it ignited the law of instantaneous manifestation. So the reason I'm sharing this with you is because how many times do you meet a moment where something is different than you thought it would be? Something has changed. Something has gone sideways. The key is, when you meet that experience with consciousness, the solution births, because there are no accidents. There are just these forks that will always lead you. And I want to read this again. I read it in the first half of the show. I want to read it again, which is, all paths, dearest children, lead home, all of them. But how you go there is completely up to you. This is what many people call free will. Now, sometimes you must take many paths, and sometimes you have many forks in the road. Do you not? Yet the forks are part of the path. I want to say that again. The forks are part of the path. You have not made a mistake. You have not made anything wrong, because each fork will lead to another fork. And eventually they will all, remember our mosaic? They will all bring you back to where you're ready to go.
And here's what's happening there that isn't directly communicated, but it's packed into the words.
Heavily packed. This is a packed sentence.
That as your consciousness engages the forks, as your consciousness engages the path, we cultivate discernment and we keep lifting.
Right.
That is, the choices you make today in your life are most likely better informed and of more wisdom than the choices you made years ago.
So true.
And so this is why all paths will lead you home.
Yep.
Is that we will hone our consciousness.
Wow.
You know, and I just want to come back to one more point on this whole partners in pain thing, because consider for a moment that the mass consciousness enjoys sustaining victim consciousness.
Woo!
Because the victim Velcro of an abuser, a victim, and a rescuer provides an immediate sense of meaning to people who are playing that game. I'm either the one that was hurt, or I'm the one that was righteously trying to change things, or I'm rescuing, and I get a sense of power for the there, let me help you out energy. and so, but what happens with enough practice and a willingness to look deeper is...
And those of you that are in the video right now are looking deeper. You're seeing what we're showing you right here. I just want to share is that you're staring at the victim triangle. And this is what Sri is referring to, that as we evolve, and especially as we have trust issues and a lot of judgment, and this is where we're going into right now into this next phase, we live the third dimension. That world we are born into says you are a victim, there are abusers, there are rescuers, and all of them are you, and all of them are around you. This is where our partners in pain exist. Then when we break free is when we transform into this teacher, mentor, healer. And so this is an important thing to remember.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so we all tend to start off in the victim triangle.
We must. It's not that we have to. It's what we're born into.
Because that's the soup that we're swimming in, the
that's
environment.
the planetary thought body.
And so we play by the rules
Right.
until we see fallacy, and then we start shifting what we're going to align with.
And let's look at the group think. right? So if you look at the groupthink right now, the groupthink has become highly judgmental, especially over the past few years. And we are now in this post-December 2020 experience, the December 2020 experience, the up levels that have happened. We are getting ready right now, which is why Sri and I were really called to call forward the show today at the behest of some beautiful people in our organization, Bria and Sue, thank you. The reason that this is happening, the reason we're offering you this show right now is because as you are looking forward into a new experience, another year, this is a moment to get nakedly authentic with yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're listening to this show, if you're exploring the mysteries with us, then deep within you, you're ready to go to another level. You're ready to do what? Expand. And so in order to expand, we must first look nakedly, authentically in the mirror at our own divine presence and get ready to break free of those partners in pain, because we cannot release judgment, nor will we ever be able to trust ourselves if our safety is found in our partners in pain.
Yeah.
And right now on the planet, we are seeing groups of partners in pain banding together and solidifying. They're becoming like these little solid big moments, right, of pain, anger, judgment, and lack of trust other than inside of this own little sphere.
Well, yes.
And this is why this conversation is so important. This is why we invite you to explore what's really happening. That coagulation of the isms, because it's really what it is, right? It's a coagulation of the isms. So all those isms, including activism, are polarizing energies that band together in one way of thinking, thereby saying, I am safe in the confines of this way of thinking, and all other ways of thinking are not safe for me, thereby I judge them as wrong, thereby I limit my own expansion.
Exactly.
We are that powerful.
Exactly. This human need for affirmation, this tribal energy of where do I belong? Who's going to love me?
Tell me I'm good because I don't know it in me.
So that need to belong, that need for affirmation, then supports this encapsulation into schisms and isms, and so we become fractionalized. Now, one of the things that's interesting, as we begin to soften that a little bit and look and say, okay, I'm triggered, or I have this position.
Right.
If you remain there, and you can remain there for a lifetime, then
and many may remain there for more than one.
They're saying, I don't choose to grow beyond that yet. Okay.
Because you are, and I think this is important to point out that all paths, right? This was right in the installment. All paths are leading everyone home. It is our judgment of another's path that limits our own return to oneness.
Yes. We're going to unpack that one a little further. But before we do, I want to mention one more thing. And that is how people who are deeply in the victim energy, and when I say deeply, a lot of times they don't even know it.
Well, no, often. I think
because
often.
There is this sophistication. You know, we have these beautiful, smart brains, and the brains can come up with a lot of good reasons why my position is valid and defendable. And as opposed to recognizing a position is just that. It's a point of view, not a definition. Mm-hmm. It's not who you are. Mm-hmm. It's a way that you're looking at something for a moment.
Right?
So when a person who's embedded in this sense of right and wrong of the victim energy, when they are met with a person who carries clarity,
right?
That clarity is felt as confrontive. Wait a minute, you're trying to wake me up from my stuckness. And they don't say that, but what's going on is like the teenager saying, don't wake me up. And so the person in the victim energy will dislike a person carrying clarity. And
it's like two magnets, right?
Yeah,
it's two magnets. And
so,
they'll see the person with clarity as rude and abusive and scary.
Yeah, abusive and confrontive.
Because they're clear. Clarity is confronting and clarity is frightening to the ego that finds their sense of safety from the outside.
Yet clarity is the highest form of compassion because it gives you a hand to lift out of your delusion.
Yes.
And if you can't see that, then you're saying, I'm not done being deluded. And I reject you and your clarity.
So let me give you guys a great example of being deluded, right? So I think many of you know that my beloved Sri Ramka is my fifth husband. And just on the other side, I'm his third wife. So between the two of us, we're an 8. But here's what's so powerful is that those first 4 marriages that I went through very, very quickly. I mean, I went through 4 marriages between the ages. I was first married at 21 and I married Sri at 41. So during those 20 years, I went through 4 marriages. And that time was spent really, really not in conscious awareness that the only thing I had in common with all of that was me. And it was after my 4th marriage, which was I always giggle and say it was just a really good B movie. and I mean, the plot is crazy and what happened was crazy. But it was that moment of really bringing me to my knees of surrender that said, okay, I get it. I know that the only thing I had in common with all of these marriages was me. I know that the only thing that I've had in common with everything that has happened in my life was me. It was that moment of naked authenticity where literally you surrender to the divine. And for me, because I'm just so whatever I am, I mean, it was a really big knock that said, here I am. I'm yours. Work through me. And it's when we get to that deep level of complete surrender to the divine. It's a release of all that is, of trying to justify your own actions, of trying to do anything other than really hit that moment of, I am the one that is the constant guiding experience in my life experience. How can I stand up and make that change? And it always brings me to Man in the Mirror by Michael Jackson, right? It's like, it's time for me to make a change. That's the moment, guys. And after I had that incredible breakthrough moment that came forward, this beautiful being, my beloved Sri Ramka, showed up within, I think it was 6 weeks within that moment happening. 6 weeks. And we were married within 4 months and have been together now going into our 19th year. And why? Because similarly, Sri had his breakthrough moment as well. There's that moment where the trust of gazing at naked authenticity, gazing at yourself in the mirror, literally or not, and both is better, where you can come to that compassion that Sri was just talking about, love yourself enough and say, okay, I get it. Now I am here. Mm-hmm. And that's the moment of divine awareness. And that's where I want you to get your pens out right now. I'm going to offer you 4 lines and they will change your life. And this is important because we've been talking about this practice. And this is a practice that you can do all the time, anytime. It was the first thing ever gifted to Sri and I through the Ascended Realms of Presence. It has changed our lives. It has changed hundreds and thousands of people's lives over the past 19 years. It's simple, it's free, and it's called the Mantra of Self-Ascension. So I want you to just breathe that in, because what is a mantra? What is a mantra anyway, right?
A mantra is a phrase that is intended to evoke a spiritual recognition, a spiritual gift.
And an illumination. It's something that if we stay with it, it works. And so the Mantra of Self-Ascension is 100% non-dogmatic, and it's 100% designed to get you through. It is 4 very simple lines. You ready? Because I already gave you the first one. Give them the first one again, Sri.
I am here.
Now write that with a capital I, a capital AM, and a capital HERE. I am here, because the power in declaring I am here calls you right here into this moment. And as you would breathe that in, I am here. The next line, let's give them to him, Sri.
I am ready.
Capital I, capital am, capital ready. I am ready. When we declare that we are ready, what we're really saying is I surrender, right? I am here. I am here. I'm really present, right? I am ready. Lack of resistance. Next line.
I am open.
This is a magic line. So capital I, capital M, capital open. Why is this such a magic line? Because it means that you've transcended and I'm going to call it the actual limiting belief of that it is better to give than to receive. One of the most limiting beliefs out there. It is better to give and receive with divine equality. Balance. Yeah. Giving and receiving is a balance. It is not better to give than to receive. It is also not better to receive than give. Both of those, you see how both of those are qualifying energies that limit. Giving and receiving is a balance. And in this planet, especially women I think really have had that about, especially as caregivers, the traditional caregivers, the feminine energy, I'm not even going to role model or genderize it, but the feminine energy has very much been taught to sacrifice. Because if we are living in victim consciousness, we believe in sacrifice. So I am open says, I am ready to receive. Mm-hmm. I am here. I am ready. I am open. You ready for the last line? It's really easy.
The next line is simply, guide me.
Woo! Guíame. That's Spanish. Breathe that in. Guide me. Guide me. Guide me is the energy that says the ego has relaxed. Mm-hmm. I am no longer the energy of that which is seeking to dismiss the divine inspiration that is your birthright to be the illuminating principle, the way that you move through everything. Yeah. Your divine inspiration is your birthright, and it is exactly what gets cut off through the groupthink, through the planetary thought body, through the partners in pain. Because you're not trusting divine inspiration. You're only trusting that which is in a linear and really very much like stuck in a loop. You ever notice the repetitive patterns in your life? And again, this is why if you want to weigh out a judgment, and there have been times throughout our lives, I remember evenings when I was having some fear come forward and other things, and I would just sit there. I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. And here's the gift of that too. You can even say it sarcastically, right? You can be like, yeah, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm open, guide me. Just keep repeating it. And you will notice how quickly the energy shifts and how quickly the guidance does come forward. And this is Einstein. The mantra of self-ascension shifts your consciousness so that you discover the solutions at a level of consciousness that is very, very different than the one that created them.
It also connects you to what we talked about earlier, which is your essence.
Yes!
We're not saying, I am open to reading a book and getting a new ism to guide me. What we're saying to our deeper self, or our higher self in some languages, we're saying to our essence, I am here, present time.
I am here.
I am ready, meaning I've let go of my agenda. I am open. I have no need to control. Now guide me.
Ooh, now breathe that in, because I want to offer to you, if you want to bring your hands to your heart, the more you work with this, and I do encourage you, Shri and I have the mantra of self-ascension everywhere. Put it on sticky notes, type it up, frame it, make it pretty, put it wherever you want. The mantra of self-ascension will work, because where it brings you, those 4 lines will bring you to a moment where what's happening energetically, the more that you work with that, is that I am here transcends to open my mind. What you're saying is open my mind. I am here, open my mind. Breathe that one in. I am ready. Expand your vision. Expand your vision. I am ready means I will no longer limit myself by the paradigms that seek to keep me from trusting me. I am ready to expand my vision, open my mind, expand my vision. And then what's next? The I am open, the 3rd line of the mantra. Where does that bring us? Right where Shri is. Ignite my heart. Open my mind, expand my vision, ignite my heart. Open my mind, expand my vision, ignite my heart. Look at those chakra areas. And then you know what comes forward? through the guide me, what arises is that beautiful, beautiful divine inspiration. And the guide me becomes how we heal the world.
Yeah.
So I want you to really breathe that in.
All true information, all true guidance is always healing.
Yes.
It's unifying. It's operating at the more fundamental, essential level, not in the refracted, personalized, egoic levels. And so healing is the natural result. And, and this brings us to this topic of judgment.
And releasing it.
Because when we think about it, judgment arises when we don't trust life, when we think that we need to control something, or and that we're really focused on the outer world and our need to make it conform to our own image.
Right, right. And I want to bring us back to that ensoulment, because this line is so rich. The judgment of any path interferes with your own path. So I want you to really breathe that in, because I love the way they end this here. When judgment comes forward, it is an opportunity for you to become even clearer. And it's also a moment for you to recognize, wait a minute, I'm not in my higher experience of me right now. Yeah. And that is really the gift, that's the mastery. The mastery is, okay, I see that I'm in judgment, thereby I cannot hold compassion for myself, thereby I'm limiting my ability for divine inspiration. And so why not carry the consciousness that when you see the judgments, I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. Use a mala. I often use Rudraksha malas. Find them at malasforascension.com. Go to malasforascension.com. And with each one of these little beads, I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. I am here, I am ready, I am open, guide me. Open my mind, expand my vision, ignite my heart, heal the world. Look at what you're doing. It's an immediate, simple call to presence, and it's just that easy to call forward.
Yeah.
And you can do it with a wrist mala too, which is why I'm always wearing wrist malas, I am here, I am ready, I am open. When we wear a mala, and when we say yes to wearing a mala, you notice Shree's wearing many malas. We're always wearing many malas. What we're saying is, I'm wearing the prayer. I am calling that consciousness into that which I am in form right now.
It's very easy to get distracted by the dance of density. And so it's important to have a little compassion for ourselves, to say, hey, I'm doing the best I know how, given all the pressures I'm under, the stress that I'm experiencing, and my level of consciousness at this time. How could it be otherwise?
And when you're sitting at home or you're pondering all of the distraction that is seeking to keep you stuck, we want to thank you for saying yes to exploring the mysteries with us. And we want to invite you, if you want to really live this, if you really want to call the law of instantaneous manifestation into your life, if you're tired of all the up and the down and the doubt and the lack of trust and all of the other things, 3 things I want you to do right now if you have that pen out. Hopefully you still do. Number 1, go visit Sri, S-R-I, and A-N-D, Kira, Kira.com. Get there. Learn about self-ascension. We have thousands of pages of free material sitting there waiting for you. In addition to that, register for New Year's Eve. If you are catching us before New Year's Eve, be there. We are going to go live with our annual, everything we're teaching now, the ensoulments. Every new year we bring a new one in. Kind of curious what's this about? Join us. Just get on the reservation list. Get to shrinkira.com. It's right there on the homepage to click through and register. And then the last thing we want to encourage you to do is while you're there, while you're registering for New Year's, check out what's happening starting in January. Monday Magic. We explore the mysteries in depth with our community. We take your questions live. Yeah. We dive into the energy that is happening right now. And starting in January, we are going to be diving through how to actually live an ascended life. And join us. You can get in for as little as $1. 100% of your donation goes toward our humanitarian aid projects. This is the moment to say yes to yourself, to the human, to our grander experience, and to know that trust heals.
Trust heals. And in every moment, beloved ones, you have the opportunity to choose. And one of the things I invite you to remind yourself is, I can choose judgment or I can choose love.
Woo!
I can rely on my inner guidance or I can rely on the charisma of an outer authority. You have a choice.
It's almost an oxymoron, but anyway, go ahead. I love it. I love it.
And so as we come to a close for today, we trust that you are indeed finding your way into ever closer alignment with the joy of your authenticity.
Explore that mystery and thrive. We love you with all our heart and look forward to being with you again right here next week.
Namaste.
Thank you for joining us at Shri and Kira Live. To have your questions answered, send us an email to guest@shriandkiraradio.com and check out more information at shriandkira.com. See you next week. Namaste.